So I actually spent a big chunk of this weekend at the Venezuelan Embassy in DC, where there's a standoff and kind of a proxy mini war going on between the opposition, which are the Guaido supporters, and the embassy protectors, what they call themselves, which include groups like Code Pink and I believe they're called the Progressive Collective, but I'll need to look at that again. But it's headed up by Margaret Flowers. So she actually ran for Senate in Maryland in the past, and she's a big activist. And of course, you probably know of Code Pink because they've been around for a while, since Occupy, I believe it was, and they're involved in lots of different actions. But this one is major. So the background of what's happening at the Venezuelan Embassy in DC is that so Maduro, the elected president in Venezuela right now, obviously has control of the embassy in DC. Now, the Guaido people think that that should not be the case at all. So the Guaido people are outside of the embassy protesting, banging pots and pans, running sirens, blowing into blowhorns, yelling into megaphones, doing everything they can do to cause a noise, cause ruckus. They've even tried to break into the embassy. Now, inside the embassy, there are currently no ambassadors or anything like that. What's in there are what are called the embassy protectors. They call themselves the peaceful embassy protectors. So they're in there. Margaret Flowers is one of them, if you want to find her on Twitter. And Medea Benjamin has been inside. Ariel Gold has been inside. Those are two Code Pink girls. And I don't know how many are inside the embassy right now. I guess around 10. So they're inside the embassy, and surrounding the embassy are supporters of the peace protectors, or the opposition, which are the Guaido supporters. So these are often wealthy Venezuelans who have come to the United States, and they believe that Guaido is the official leader, or should be able to take the place of Maduro. And this is obviously also the stance of the United States, unfortunately, and a number of other countries. I believe it's 50 countries now recognize Juan Guaido as the leader, whereas the elected leader is Maduro. So that's kind of the background on that. So what I saw there was a lot of shenanigans, and I'll play some of those shenanigans for you. As I said, the opposition, the Guaido side, was trying to break into the embassy by banging on it, trying to drill through to get inside. And mind you, there are Secret Service and police everywhere outside of the embassy. They're covering it everywhere. And from what I saw and from what's been reported, they are actually on the side of the Guaido people. They won't help the embassy protectors. They've done a lot of shady things, including what I heard today from reporter Alex Rubenstein, who is embedded inside with the embassy protectors, is that they cut down trees that embassy protectors were posting or hanging signs on in support of not having a coup. And that is what this is. It's a coup attempt. Now, the Guaido side will tell you, oh no, this is not a coup because Guaido is the recognized leader, so of course it can't be a coup. But it is a coup. It's most definitely a coup, and it's yet another one where the United States has its hands in regime change, and there are no two ways about it. So, as I said, Secret Service and police stand aside and do nothing. They've arrested peace protectors who are doing nothing but being peaceful. The opposition side has assaulted Code Pink people, embassy protectors, and yet those are the ones who get hauled off to jail. I was, when I was there reporting, I was harassed by the opposition. They were, while I was reporting, like tapping me on the back. When I turned around, they called me ugly and then denied it and said, no one wants to touch you, denied tapping me on the back, and blew air horns in my ear, shine lights in my face, like strobe light flashing, which, by the way, is a health concern. You might say, oh, assault via light is nothing. But really, for people with epilepsy, for people with migraines like me, I get migraines, it's very triggering. And for people who are on the spectrum as well, it can be very triggering to have these lights flashing and flashing in your face. And so while I tried to interview peace protectors, they were flashing the lights during our interview. They were ripping posters out behind me. And so I actually had to cut an interview short, for example, and that was the only one I was able to conduct with one of the peace protectors, because all day from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., where the noise ordinances land, it's far too noisy. There's music playing, there's people shouting into those bullhorns and things like that, as I described. So it's quite a scene at the embassy. There are rumors that the police plan to go in and raid the embassy. And even now, the police are not making the opposition step aside or clear an area so that people can get food into the embassy. And that's one of the biggest concerns, is that people inside the embassy need food, medications, and things like that, toiletries. And it's been a major ordeal trying to get those things inside. What they've had to implement is kind of this pulley system where people at the bottom, the people at the top will throw a rope down, and people at the bottom who are allies tie a bag to the end of the rope, and then they have to pull the rope up to the top. So that's the only way they've been able to get food in there. But the people inside do seem to be in good spirits. It can't be easy. They have to deal with people trying to break in. They have to deal with the threat of raid. They have to deal with a lot of stuff. So that's where I was all weekend. There's more to it than that. I'll show you some video. And I actually have a lot of video footage that I haven't been able to upload yet, because for some reason it's taking forever to get the files uploaded and downloaded. That's a whole other story, but I will have that footage up for you because I think it's very important what's going on at the Venezuelan Embassy and what's going on in Venezuela. It is a coup attempt, as I said, and who knows how it's going to end here in the United States at the proxy war at the embassy, or how it's going to end in Venezuela. This past Tuesday, there was a coup attempt by Juan Guaido and his supporters. And actually it failed. And what they tried to do was get Maduro officials on their side. So they secretly had talks with Maduro officials and convinced them that they could keep their jobs if they defected to the Guaido side and outwardly came out against Maduro and forced Maduro to flee. That was their goal. It did not happen. If you listen to the United States, it's Russia's fault that it didn't happen, of course. That Russia at the last minute convinced Maduro not to go, and he stayed. Who knows what actually happened behind the scenes? There are a lot of unknowns, but what we do know is that those Maduro officials decided not to come out against Maduro and not defect to the Guaido side, and so the coup just didn't happen. And there's a lot of backtracking from the Guaido side saying, oh no, that wasn't us trying to do anything. That was, the timeline was moved forward, and that's just the first step of many steps. And they're really trying to weasel their way out. And Guaido, by the way, is this 35-year-old who looks confused most of the time, and his statements, if you read them when he's interviewed by reporters and things like that, his statements are nonsensical. He does not seem to be much of a leading figure at all. He was installed. He used to be an activist. Now he's apparently the leader of Venezuela, when in reality he is not. He's recognized by a lot of countries, as I mentioned, but he is not the true leader, the true elected leader of Venezuela. And think what you want about Maduro. he is the elected leader, and if people want him out, then he needs to be democratically ousted and not ousted via a coup. And what a lot of people get wrong about the embassy protectors is not all of them are pro-Maduro. Maduro has made a lot of mistakes. He's screwed up a lot, but he is democratically elected. So what people in the embassy protectors side are on is the side of peace, the side of negotiation, the side of democracy. The side of Guaido is on the side of a coup attempt, even if they refuse to call it that. What I want to do is, because I know me talking about Venezuela and the Venezuelan protests at the embassy in DC is not really enough. I want you to see this interview that I did with someone named Mara. She's a lawyer for the peace protectors. She is an observer. She makes sure everything that's going on is legit. She's counsel there to kind of keep things smooth, to observe, to make sure that nothing egregious is going on. And she's wonderful. Interviewing her was quite great. But you'll see that the opposition side, the Guaido side, was shining lights in our face and was harassing me from behind and all sorts of things. So I had to cut the interview short. But what I did get was very good, and we'll give you some insight into what's going on there.
Well, what's really happening is because the people inside are lawfully present, what the Trump administration and the federal law enforcement and local law enforcement have decided to do is to try and force them to leave on their own. Because obviously if they were not lawfully present, then they could take action to lawfully remove them. But instead, they've taken the extraordinary step of allowing these mobs to form, mobs that have physically assaulted people in front of law enforcement officers who do nothing, mobs that have been smashing on the doors. They were trying to smash into the building tonight, and that's why we're out here again, was to intervene and stop this effort. If these guys who are extremely violent, they've been issuing death threats and rape threats constantly to peaceful activists who are here.
There's been no cursing, no yelling, just standing here peacefully. Is that kind of your the way that you guys want to present yourselves as the protectors?
Well, the peace activists have in fact been peaceful. They've been very disciplined. They've been peaceful even in the face of physical assaults. They haven't responded as they would be within their rights to defend themselves very frequently. As you can see, while it's childish and pathetic, the light flashing, it's also really emblematic of this constant effort. They're always blaring sirens or flashing lights. What they're really incapable of doing is articulating anything more than the fact that they behave like thugs.
And that's one of the things that's been curious to me as I watched from afar, is that law enforcement is not doing their jobs, in my estimation. I mean, I saw that Ariel Gold and Medea Benjamin were assaulted again, and that the cops said unless everyone is arrested who was involved, that no one would be arrested. Is this kind of the consistent action from law enforcement here?
Well, when you say they're not doing their job, I know what you mean, but the fact is I think they are doing their job. Law enforcement is clearly under orders to allow this to happen. This is not, the normal way that they would quote-unquote enforce the law. So this couldn't be happening unless they were being directed to allow it to happen. That's what we know is going on right now. The State Department, the Trump administration, the Secret Service, they are directing this to happen.
What you just saw there was one of the legal protectors for the embassy protectors, and what she describes is completely accurate from what I observed. The police do nothing, and she was right when I said the police don't seem to be doing their jobs. Well, she was absolutely correct in saying, I know what you mean, but they are doing their jobs. It does seem like these orders are coming from the top. They're coming from somewhere that wants the Guaido side to be successful, and that would be the United States. As I said, the United States does not recognize the Maduro presidency. They recognize the Guaido coup attempt, and that's what we'll call it, as a coup attempt, even though you'll see that language being erased all over the place. And you can, even if you're just someone who's happening across the scene and you don't have, let's imagine you don't have a side, and you just walk to the Venezuelan embassy and observe what's going on both sides, what you will see are the Guaido supporters behaving erratically, irrationally, doing the lights, doing the sirens, physically hurting people, and you'll see the peace protectors being peaceful, as is in their name. And so it's easy to see which side you would want to be on: the side of peace, the side of reason, the side of wanting diplomacy and democracy, and not the side of a coup attempt. And Mara put that very, very well in what we talked about. So,
hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com, where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.